You are standing in the center of a silence so profound, it feels like a physical weight. The air is heavy here, draped over your shoulders like a warm, wet blanket. It is the kind of humidity that slows time, blurring the edges of the day. The sky above is a pale, milky blue, bleached by the intensity of the tropical sun. Though the light that reaches you is filtered through the canopy of dipterocarp trees, you take a breath, a taste of damp earth, of fermenting leaves, and the faint, sweet decay that signals the presence of deep, standing water. You are not looking at a temple yet. You are looking at water. To understand the city of Angkor, the largest pre-industrial city in the history of the world, you must first understand the water. You are standing at the edge of the West Baray. It looks like a lake, vast and flat, stretching out toward the horizon until the water meets the sky in a shimmering line of heat haze. But this is not a natural lake. As you begin to walk along the earthen embankment, you feel the artificiality of the ground beneath your feet. This is a wall of earth, packed down by human hands, millions of hands, nearly 1,000 years ago. You walk slowly. There is no rush. The history here is long, and it requires patience. Imagine the sheer scale of what lies before you. This reservoir is 8 kilometers long and over 2 kilometers wide. It holds nearly 13 billion gallons of water. As you gaze out over the surface, the water is glassy and still. Occasionally a fish breaks the surface, sending concentric rings rippling outward, disturbing the reflection of the white clouds. This water is the blood of the city. Without it, the stones of Angkor Wat would never have been raised. Without it, the rice would not grow. Without it, the silence you hear now would not be populated by the ghosts of 1 million people. You continue walking along the dike. To your left is the great expanse of water. To your right, a steep drop-off into the rice paddies below. You can see the genius of the engineering here. The Khmer engineers did not dig a hole in the ground to make this lake. They built walls up from the plain to catch the rain and divert the rivers. It is a gravity-fed machine. You pause to look at a sluice gate, or what remains of one. You can imagine the wood rotting away centuries ago, but the stone frame remains. Picture the year 1296. The heat would have been the same. The light would have been the same. The silence would be gone. If you were standing here then, the air would vibrate with the lowing of water buffalo and the shouting of dike wardens. You would see men in loincloths, their skin darkened by the sun, checking the water levels with obsessive care. They are the keepers of the hydraulic city. They know that if the water is too high, the dikes might burst and flood the wooden houses downstream. If it is too low, the second harvest of rice will fail and the city will starve. You start to walk away from the Baray now, turning your back on the water, moving toward the dense green line of the jungle that hides the city walls. The road under your feet is red laterite, a clay-like stone that hardens in the sun. It is dusty. Fine red powder coats your shoes. As you walk, you notice the landscape is a grid. It is not a wild jungle, but a manicured garden gone to seed. You are approaching the moat of Angkor Thom, the great capital city established by Jayavarman VII. The road widens. You see statues rising from the earth on either side of the causeway. They are holding a giant snake naga. You slow your pace to examine them. On the left, the devas, the gods, with their serene faces and almond eyes. On the right, the asuras, the demons, with their grimacing mouths and bulging eyes. They are locked in an eternal tug-of-war, pulling the body of the serpent. This is the churning of the ocean of milk, a creation myth frozen in stone. You walk past them one by one. There are 54 on each side. Some of the heads are missing, lost to looters or time. Some are eroded, their features melted by centuries of monsoon rains into vague, ghostly lumps of sandstone. But many are pristine. You look into the eyes of a deva. The stone is cool to the touch, despite the heat of the day. You trace the line of the lips, curved in a slight smile. It is the famous Khmer smile, detached, peaceful, knowing. You are crossing the moat now. The water here is dark, filled with lotus flowers. In the height of the empire, this moat would have been patrolled. Crocodiles were said to inhabit these waters, a natural defense against invaders. Now, there are only dragonflies, darting like jewels over the surface. Ahead of you looms the south gate. It is a mountain of stone, carved with faces that look in all 4 directions. As you get closer, The scale becomes overwhelming. The gate is narrow, designed for elephants and pedestrians, not for cars. You walk through the archway. The stone blocks above you are massive, held together by gravity and friction, no mortar. You feel a sudden drop in temperature as you enter the shadow of the arch. It is a momentary relief from the sun. Above you, the face of the Bodhisattva of Avalokiteshvara, or perhaps the king himself, looks down. The eyes are half closed in meditation. You feel small. That was the point. We're entering the center of the universe, the axis mundi. You emerge from the tunnel of the gate into the city of Angkor Wat. But what do you see? If you're expecting a city of stone skyscrapers, you will be disappointed. You see a forest, towering dipterocarps, silk cotton trees with massive silver roots that snake over the ground like melted wax, and dense undergrowth. This is where you must use your imagination to peel back the layers of time. You have to erase the trees. Sweep them away in your mind. Replace the silence of the jungle with the roar of humanity. You are standing on a wide avenue. It is packed with people. The ground is beaten hard by thousands of bare feet. To your right and left are not trees, but houses. Thousands of them. This is the secret of Angkor, that the stone temples don't tell you. The temples were for the gods. They were built of stone and brick to last forever. But the people, even the king, lived in structures made of wood, bamboo, and thatch. These organic materials have long since rotted away, eaten by termites and dissolved by the humidity, leaving no trace but the discoloration of the soil and post holes buried deep underground. Walk with me down this vanished avenue. You can smell the city now. It is a pungent mix. Sharp, acrid smoke of wood fires cooking rice. The sweet scent of jasmine and frangipani offered at small household shrines. The smell of fish paste, prehek, fermenting in clay jars. A smell that is heavy, salty, and distinctly Cambodian. And underneath it all, the smell of animals, pigs, chickens, dogs, and the ever-present manure of the elephants. The houses are raised on stilts. You look up at them as you pass. They are elevated to protect against the floods and to keep the living space cool. Underneath the houses, life is happening. You see women weaving cotton on backstrap looms. The rhythmic clack-clack-clack of the shuttle is the heartbeat of the neighborhood. Children are chasing each other, naked and dusty, weaving between the stilts. A pig is sleeping in the shade, twitching its ears against the flies. You are walking toward the center of the city, toward the Bayon Temple. But let's linger here in the residential district. Notice the hierarchy. The houses are not all the same. The poor live in small huts of bamboo and straw, huddled close together. The wealthy live in larger structures made of hardwood teak and rosewood with tiles on the roofs instead of thatch. The size of the house dictates the status. In the Angkorian legal code, the size of your home was strictly regulated by your rank. You pause by a particularly large house. The wood is dark and polished. Intricate carvings adorn the window frames, lotus patterns, and geometric swirls. Can hear voices coming from the veranda above. They are speaking Old Khmer. It is a language of soft vowels and clipped consonants. They are discussing the price of wax, or the arrival of a Chinese merchant ship, or the king's health. It is midday. The heat is at its peak. The city slows down. You feel the lethargy in your own limbs. The distinct, sharp shadows of the morning have blurred into a glaring wash of light. You continue walking. The avenue opens up. You are approaching the market. Before you reach the market, you come to a canal. Angkor is not just a city on land. It is a city of water. The canal is straight, lined with laterite blocks. Small boats are being pulled along the water. They are laden with goods baskets of rice, bundles of sugarcane, coconuts. The water in the canal is murky, brown with silt, connects the domestic households to the great berries and the moat. You stand on a small wooden bridge and look down at the water. A woman is washing clothes on the steps leading down to the canal. She beats the wet cloth against a stone. Thwack, thwack. The sound carries in the heavy air. Further down, a group of boys is jumping into the water, shouting and splashing. It feels remarkably normal. This is the fascination of the forgotten life. We look at the ruins of Angkor Wat and see a mysterious alien civilization. But standing here on this imaginary bridge watching the water flow, you realize that their days were filled with the same mundane tasks as ours. Washing clothes, cooking food, managing the heat, You leave the canal and keep moving toward the center. The crowd thickens. You are brushing shoulders with people now. Look at them. Look at their faces. The men are bare-chested, wearing a cloth wrapped around their waists as sampot. The cloth is knotted at the front. Most of them are barefoot. Their hair is tied up in a knot at the back of the head. Their skin is deeply tanned. The women wear a similar cloth wrapped around their waists, falling to their ankles. Some leave their upper bodies bare. Others wear a light shawl of cotton or silk, draped over one shoulder. They wear gold bangles on their wrists and ankles. Their hair is oiled and styled with flowers fresh, jasmine buds that release their scent as they move. You see a group of soldiers marching past. They carry round shields and spears. They are not marching in a rigid lockstep, but with a loose, confident swagger. They wear leather doublets to protect their chests. Crowd parts for them, not out of fear, but out of respect and habit. You are getting closer to the Bayon now. You can see the spires rising above the rooftops of the wooden houses. The stone faces are looking at you again. But let's not go to the temple yet. Let's turn down a side street. The noise of the main avenue fades. You're in a quiet lane. The trees here are old, offering deep shade. You stop to examine a spirit house. It is a miniature temple, placed on a post in the corner of a yard. There is a small offering of rice and a burnt-out stick of incense. This is the animist heart of the people. Before the Hindu gods arrived from India, the Khmer worshipped the spirits of the land, the Nikta. Even here in the shadow of the great state temples, the old spirits are still fed. You feel a light breeze. It rustles the palm fronds. It brings with it the sound of temple bells, distant chiming melody. You sit down on a low, laterite wall to rest. The stone is rough against your hand. You watch a trail of red ants marching in a line across the dust. You lose yourself in the repetition of their movement. The whispers of the city are all around you. It is a hum of life. It is the sound of a civilization at its zenith. Unaware that one day all of this will rot, the canals will choke with silt, and the jungle will take it all back. But for now, in this moment, the city is alive. The water is flowing, the rice is growing, the king is on his throne. You close your eyes for a moment, listening. When you open them, you are ready to move deeper. You are ready to enter the residential blocks and see how the people truly lived. Behind the walls, away from the gaze of the stone gods, you stand up. Dust rises around your feet. The journey into the wooden city is just beginning. You turn away from the grand, dusty avenue and step onto a narrower path. The noise of the procession, the soldiers, and the elephants begins to fade behind you, replaced by a more intimate, rhythmic quiet. You are entering the residential heart of Angkor Wat. This is the city that vanished. While the temples were built of sandstone and laterite to endure the cycles of cosmic time, the city of men was built of wood, bamboo, and thatch. It was designed to breathe, to flex with the wind, and eventually to return to the earth. There is a profound humility in this. The Khmer believed that only the gods had the right to live in stone. Even the king, the ruler of the entire empire, the Varman who shielded the people, lived in a palace of wood. To build a house of stone for a mortal would be an act of hubris, a challenge to the heavens. So you are walking through a metropolis of organic matter. The path under your feet is packed earth, shaded by the overhanging fronds of coconut palms and the broad, dark leaves of jackfruit trees. The air here is cooler, trapped by the vegetation. You notice that the city is not a dense block of contiguous buildings like Rome or medieval London. It is a garden city. It is a vast collection of villages stitched together by canals and causeways. To your left, a bamboo fence runs along the path. It is old, the bamboo bleached gray by the sun, held together by strips of rattan. Through the gaps in the fence, you see a domestic courtyard. Let us stop here. Let us observe the architecture of the everyday. The house stands in the center of the plot. It is rectangular, raised high on stilt timber piles that lift the floor 2 or 3 meters off the ground. This is the logic of the monsoon. When the great rains come, the ground will turn to mud and the waters may rise, but the house will remain dry. In the dry season, as it is now, the space underneath the house acts as a shaded workshop and a stable. You lean against a tree and watch. Underneath the house, A massive water buffalo is tethered to a post. It lies chewing its cud, its dark eyes half closed. Near the buffalo, a loom is set up. A grandmother sits there. Her hands move with practiced, unconscious competence. She is weaving a krama, the checkered cotton scarf that is the universal garment of the Khmer. You watch the shuttle pass back and forth. Click, clack, click, clack. It is a hypnotic, wooden sound that marks the passing of seconds. You decide to move closer. You are a ghost here. You can walk through the gate without disturbing the dogs that sleep in the dust. Approach the house. Look at the timber. It is not rough-hewn. It is smooth, polished by years of touch and oil. The wood is likely a hardwood, perhaps dipterocarp or rosewood, resistant to termites. Look closely at the joints where the beams meet the posts. There are no iron nails here. Iron is precious. It is for swords, spear tips, and agricultural tools. Instead, the house is held together by geometry and friction. The carpenters have used mortise and tenon joints, wedges, and wooden dowels. It is a puzzle of structural integrity. You can see where a wedge has been driven in to tighten a joint that loosened in the last dry season. The craftsmanship is functional, honest, and beautiful in its simplicity. A ladder leads up to the living quarters. It is steep, almost a staircase, made of heavy planks. You climb up. The transition from the bright glare of the yard to the interior of the house is sudden. Your eyes take a moment to adjust to the dimness. The walls are made of woven bamboo mats, lashed to the wooden frame. They filter the light, turning the harsh sun into a soft amber glow. These walls are breathable. A gentle draft moves through the room, carrying the smoke of a cooking fire out and the scent of the garden in. The floor beneath your feet is made of bamboo strips, polished to a high sheen. It feels cool and flexible. It gives slightly under your weight. The room is sparse. If you are used to the clutter of modern life, this space feels incredibly empty. There are no tables, there are no chairs, there are no cupboards looming against the walls. The furniture of Angkor is low and portable. Life happens on the floor. You see rolled up mats made of woven reeds stacked in a corner. These are the beds. At night they are unrolled. In the morning they are put away. There is no distinction between a bedroom and a living room. The space is fluid. Against the far wall, there is a low wooden chest. It is carved with floral motifs. This holds the family's valuables. A few lengths of silk, perhaps a silver bowl, and the family's genealogy recorded on palm leaf manuscripts. Next to it sits a set of bronze vessels. These are for betel nut. You move closer to examine them. The chewing of betel is a social ritual, a mild stimulant that stains the mouth red. You see the little containers for the areca nut, the betel leaf, and the lime paste. The bronze is dull, tarnished by the humidity, but you can see the care in its casting. In the center of the room, a woman is sitting on her heels. She is preparing food. The kitchen in many houses is a separate structure to prevent fire, but here, small clay stove sits on a bed of ash and bricks in the corner near the door. A pot of rice is steaming. The smell is comforting, sweet, starchy, and familiar. She is slicing fish. The fish is fresh, caught this morning in the Tonal Sap or the West Baray. She uses a sharp iron knife. She tosses the fish into a pot with herbs, lemongrass, galangal, kaffir lime leaves. The scent fills the room, sharp and citrusy, cutting through the humidity. You watch her for a while. She is wearing a simple skirt, stripped to the waist in the heat of the house. Her movements are efficient. She does not hurry. In this climate, to hurry is to exhaust yourself. Everything is done with a deliberate, flowing slowness. You step back out onto the veranda. This is the threshold between the private and the public. It is where the family sits in the evening to catch the breeze, to watch the neighbors, to tell stories. Looking out from this vantage point, you can see the layout of the neighborhood. The houses are not arranged in a rigid grid, but follow the organic lines of the terrain and the water. Every house has a pond. You see them dotting the landscape, rectangular pits dug into the clay. These are not for swimming. They are for water retention, for washing, for keeping fish. The water in the ponds is green and still. Ducks paddle across the surface. A child is squatting by the edge of a pond, scrubbing a pot with coconut husk and sand. The domestic water cycle is tight and circular. Rain fills the ponds. The ponds sustain the household. You climb down the ladder and back into the sunlight. Walking further into the district, you begin to notice the subtle signs of hierarchy. You pass a house that is larger than the others. The roof is not thatch, but terracotta tiles. They are hook-shaped, overlapping like the scales of a dragon. This is the home of an official, perhaps a captain of the guards or a scribe in the royal court. The tiles are a status symbol. Thatch rots and must be replaced every few years. Tiles are permanent. They speak of wealth and favor. You pause by the gate of this wealthier house. The fence is taller here. You can hear the sound of a stringed instrument coming from inside a pin, a type of harp. The music is soft, pentatonic, drifting like smoke. Someone is practicing. Art is a luxury of the leisure class. But even here, the basic rhythm is the same. The buffalo is still under the house, though perhaps it is a finer beast. The weaving still happens, though perhaps the thread is silk instead of cotton. You continue your walk. The path leads you toward a small open square. In the center is a well. This is the social hub of the block. 3 women are there, drawing water. They are pulling up a bucket made of woven basketry coated in resin to make it watertight. They are laughing, talking. If you could understand the old Khmer they are speaking, you would hear the gossip of the city. They were talking about the price of rice, which has risen slightly. They were talking about the upcoming festival of the ancestors. They are talking about a neighbor whose husband has taken a second wife. The language is musical. It rises and falls. It is the sound of community. You notice their teeth. They are black. To the Khmer, white teeth are for demons and animals. Black teeth are a sign of beauty and civilization. They achieve this by dyeing them with specific plants and the constant chewing of betel. When they smile, the dark void of their mouths contrasts with the gold jewelry around their necks. You walk past them, nodding invisibly. The sun is beginning to shift now. The shadows of the trees are lengthening, stretching across the dusty paths. The fierce white heat of midday is softening into a golden haze. As you walk, you become aware of the sheer density of life hidden in these trees. It is estimated that hundreds of thousands of people live in this complex. It is a sprawling, low-density urban forest. You pass a small shrine dedicated to a local spirit Anikta. It is a simple stone under a banyan tree. The roots of the tree have wrapped around the stone, embracing it. There are fresh offerings here. A banana leaf folded into a cone, holding a few grains of rice and a white flower. This is the spiritual security system of the neighborhood. The great temples of Angkor Wat and Bayon are for the king and the cosmos. But for the toothache, for the sick child, for the lost buffalo, the people come here. They whisper to the spirit of the tree. They ask for small miracles. You stop to look at a group of men crouching in a circle in the shade of a tamarind tree. They are gambling. They are playing a game with cowrie shells. They toss them onto a mat and count the way they land. There is money changing hands, small pieces of silver and lead. They're shouting softly, slapping their thighs. One man groans as he loses a bet. Another laughs, revealing his blackened teeth. It is a timeless scene. The desire to challenge fate, to win something from nothing, is as old as the city itself. You move on. The smell of smoke is getting stronger. It is late afternoon, and the evening fires are being lit. The smoke hangs low in the humid air, creating a blue mist that softens the outlines of the houses. It smells of wood and drying fish. This smoke is useful, keeps the mosquitoes at bay. You feel a sting on your arm, a mosquito. You brush it away. In a time before modern medicine, these insects are the deadliest predators in the city. Malaria and dengue are the silent killers that stalk the wooden metropolis. The smoke is not just for cooking. It is a shield. If you find yourself walking along the bank of a secondary canal, the water is turning gold in the late light. People are bathing. Cleanliness is an obsession here. The Chinese diplomat Zhou Dugwin, who will visit this city in the future, will be amazed by how often the Khmer bathe. They wash 3 or 4 times a day, he will write. You see them now? Men and women, modest in their sandpots, wading into the canal. They pour water over their heads with bowls. They scrub their skin. It is a communal act, a washing away of the day's heat and labor. The water ripples around them. You hear the splash and the murmur of contented sighs. The coolness of the water is the greatest luxury in a tropical climate. You stand there for a moment, watching the light play on the wet skin, on the dark wood of the houses, on the green of the trees. The city feels incredibly peaceful. It is a peace born of routine, of a society that knows exactly how to live in its environment. They do not fight the heat, they work around it. They do not fight the water, they live on top of it. As you turn away from the canal, heading back towards the main artery of the city, you notice the sounds are changing. The birds are settling down. Cicadas are beginning their evening sawtooth drone. The rhythm of the wooden metropolis is shifting from the work of the day to the rest of the night. But the day is not over. The city has a pulse that beats stronger as the sun goes down. There is trade to be done. There are goods to be moved. You see a woman balancing a heavy basket on her head, walking with a straight back, heading towards the center. She is not going home. She is going to the market. You decide to follow her. You leave the quiet of the residential lane and step back onto the wider road. The dust is still warm. Energy is rising again. You have seen where they sleep. You have seen where they cook. You have seen the wooden shells that hold their lives. It is time to see where they connect with the outside world. You follow the woman towards the sound of voices, a growing hum that sounds like a hive of bees. You are moving towards the Grand Plaza. You are moving towards the coinless economy of the Khmer Empire. The wooden houses recede into the twilight behind you. Ahead, the glow of torches begins to flicker. You follow the woman with the basket. Her pace is steady, rhythmic, her bare feet silent on the packed earth. You are drawn along in her wake, pulled by the invisible gravity of commerce. The lane widens, the canopy of trees opens up, and suddenly, the sky is vast above you, a deepening violet canvas where the first stars are struggling to ignite. You have arrived at the market. It is not a building. There are no vaulted ceilings or stone walls here. The market of Angkor is an event, a sprawling organism that colonizes the open ground every day. It is a sea of bamboo mats, spread directly onto the red earth. Pause for a moment at the edge of the crowd. Let your senses adjust. The first thing that hits you is the sound. It is a chaotic, layered symphony. Unlike the murmurs of the residential blocks, this is a roar of negotiation. It is the sound of thousands of voices establishing value. There is laughter, feigned outrage, the slap of hands sealing a deal, and the clinking of weights. But look closely at who is making this noise. In most ancient societies, you might visit Trome Athens. Beijing, the public face of trade, is often male. But here in the Khmer Empire, commerce is the domain of women. Zhou Daguan will later write with surprise, "In this country, it is the women who are in charge of trade. You walk into the maze of mats. You are taller than most people here, a silent observer drifting through the crush. Look at the woman to your right. She is sitting cross-legged on a mat of woven reeds. She is older, her hair cropped short in a style that signifies widowhood or perhaps just practicality. Before her are piles of vegetables. You recognize them. There are eggplants, round and purple like polished stones. There are gourds, bitter melons with their warty skin, and mounds of fresh ginger, the roots still caked with the soil of the garden. She is not passive. She is calling out to a passerby. She holds up a bunch of morning glory, shaking the water from its leaves. You watch a transaction take place. A young man stops. He squats down. Everyone squats here. The world operates at ground level, points to the ginger. He does not pull out a coin purse. There are no coins in Angkor. There is no mint, no emperor's face stamped on copper or gold to standardize the price of a fish. This is a currency-less economy, yet it is incredibly sophisticated. Watch them. The young man produces a small bag of rice. He pours a measure of it into a wooden bowl the woman provides. She eyes the level of the rice. She shakes her head. She wants more. He adds a pinch. She smiles. She hands him the ginger. Rice is the silver of the poor. It is the baseline currency. Everyone needs it, everyone eats it, so everyone accepts it. But as you move deeper into the market, the currency changes. You are moving from the necessities of life to the luxuries. Here, the mats are covered with cloth, bolts of cotton, dyed in indigo and lac-insect red, and silk. The silk is foreign. The Khmer raise silkworms, but they are not the masters of the fine, smooth silk that shimmers like water. It comes from the north, from China. You stop at a stall where a Chinese merchant is standing. He looks distinct. He is wearing a long robe, not a sandpot, is sweating profusely in the humidity, fanning himself with a palm leaf. He is surrounded by ceramics. Pick up a bowl in your mind. It is celadon. The glaze is a thick, milky green, crackled like a frozen lake. It is Song Dynasty porcelain. To the Khmer who cook in earthenware pots, this is a marvel. It is waterproof, cool to the touch, and rings like a bell when tapped. Who's buying this? A Khmer woman of high status is inspecting a jar. She is heavily adorned. Heavy gold rings weigh down her earlobes. She does not pay in rice. It would be absurd for such a treasure. She reaches into a pouch and pulls out a small ingot. It is silver. Or perhaps she pulls out a few grams of gold dust wrapped in a leaf. The Chinese merchant brings out a small set of scales. He balances the silver against a standardized weight. He nods. The deal is done. The porcelain jar, which traveled thousands of miles by river and sea to get here, now belongs to an Angkorian noblewoman. It will hold her oils or her wine. You move on. The smell of the market changes. You are leaving the dry scent of cloth and entering the wet, heavy air of the fish market. This is the engine of the city's protein. The Tonle Sap Lake, the beating heart of Cambodia, provides more fish per square kilometer than almost anywhere else on Earth. You see great piles of them, snakehead fish, catfish with their whiskers twitching, heaps of small silvery tray reel. The smell is intense. It is the smell of raw life and fermentation. Nearby, you see great clay jars sealed with cloth. You know what is inside by the pungent aroma that seeps out. It is prahuk fermented fish paste. It is gray, salty, and powerful. To the uninitiated, it is overwhelming. To the Khmer, it is the taste of home, the essential condiment that makes a meal complete. You watch a woman scoop a ladle of the gray paste into a banana leaf boat for a customer. The transaction is quick. Prahak is essential. There is little haggling over its necessity. As the sun dips lower, the light in the market shifts. The harsh overhead glare softens into a rich horizontal gold. Long shadows stretch from every person, every basket. The dust kicked up by thousands of feet glows in the air like suspended gold dust. It is the magic hour. The colors of the fruits, the bright pink of dragon fruit, the yellow of mangoes, the red of rambutans, seem to vibrate in the dimming light. You notice a section of the market that is quieter, more specialized. These are the forest goods. This is what the foreign merchants have come for. The Khmer Empire is a garden, but it is surrounded by a wild, untamable ocean of jungle. And the jungle is full of treasures. You see a man sitting behind a collection of strange items. He looks different. Perhaps he is from one of the hill tribes, a Kui or a Pear, distinct from the lowland Khmer. He sells the things that cannot be grown. Look at the wax. Great yellow blocks of beeswax, collected from the giant honeycombs of the rafter bees high in the diptero carp trees. This wax is vital. It will be used for candles in the temples, for casting bronze statues using the lost wax method. Look at the resin. Lumps of crystallized sap, glowing like amber. This is used for varnish, for torches, for waterproofing boats. And there, the most precious items of all. Kingfisher feathers. A small pile of iridescent blue feathers, shimmering with a metallic electric light. The Chinese crave these for their jewelry and art. Beside them, rhinoceros horn and elephant ivory. In the 12th century, these are commodities, stripped of the modern gilt we feel. They are simply rare materials, harvested from the dangerous green dark. You watch a trade happen here, it is slow. The buyer is a representative of the royal palace. He is examining a tusk. He runs his hand over the smooth curve of the ivory. He and the forest man speak in low tones. The payment here is likely in cloth or iron tools, axes, and machetes that the forest people need. The sun finally slips below the horizon. The sky turns a bruised purple. But the market does not stop. Suddenly points of fire appear. Torches are being lit. They are made of bamboo tubes filled with resin. They burn with a smoky orange flame. The market transforms. It becomes a place of dancing shadows. The faces of the women are illuminated from below, casting their features into sharp relief. The gold jewelry glints in the firelight. The heat of the day breaks, replaced by a slight breeze. The mood shifts from business to socialization. You smell food cooking. Real food. You follow your nose to the edge of the plaza. Here the street food vendors have set up their braziers. You see a pig being roasted on a spit over a charcoal fire. The skin is blistering and crackling, turning a deep mahogany red. The fat drips onto the coals pop sending up plumes of savory smoke. A woman is grilling chickens. They're flattened, marinated in turmeric and garlic, turning a bright yellow gold. People are gathering here to eat. You see a group of laborers, their muscles tired from hauling stone or digging canals. They squat in a circle. They hold balls of sticky rice in their hands. They dip the rice into a bowl of spicy sauce. They tear off strips of grilled chicken. You can almost taste it. The char of the meat, the bite of the chili, the comfort of the glutinous rice. They are drinking too, not water. They are drinking rice wine from a ceramic jar. They use long reed straws to suck the liquid up from the bottom of the jar, where it is strongest. Their faces are flushed. They are laughing. This is the release. After the sun, after the labor, there is the food and the wine. You wander away from the food stalls, back towards the center of the plaza. The crowd is thinning slightly, but the energy is still there. You notice something else now. The market is not just for goods, it is for information. You stand near a group of men who are not buying or selling, they are just talking. They are the news network of the ancient world. They are discussing the king, Jayavarman VII. He is building a new hospital, they say. He is building a rest house on the road to Phimai. He is a restless builder, a man who wants to save his people, not just from enemies, but from suffering itself. One man traces a map in the dust with his toe, and he's explaining the route a pilgrimage took. The others watch the lines in the dirt, nodding. You look down at the dirt map. It is ephemeral. A footprint will erase it in a moment, but for now, it is the known world. The darkness is absolute now, beyond the ring of torches. The jungle walls of the city press in. You can hear the sounds of the night beginning to compete with the human noise. The geckos calling, "Tokay, Tokay," chirping of crickets. You feel the fatigue of the city. Transactions are winding down. The women are beginning to roll up their mats. The vegetables that weren't sold are packed back into baskets. The silver is tucked safely into waistbands. You watch the Chinese merchant packing his porcelain. He wraps each bowl in straw with immense care. He looks tired. He's far from home, surrounded by a language he barely speaks, in a heat he finds oppressive, but he is rich. The profit margins on these bowls are enormous. As the market disassembles, the plaza becomes a vast, empty space again. The torches are extinguished one by one. The smell of smoke lingers, hanging low in the humidity. You're left standing in the dim light of the moon. The ground is littered with the debris of the day vegetable scraps, broken palm leaves, a spilled pile of rice. The dogs are moving in now, scavenging the scraps. The pulse of trade has slowed to a resting beat. You turn your face toward the east. The market was the connection to the world, to the horizontal plane of human geography. But Angkor is also a vertical city. It is a connection to the sky. To understand the source of the rice you saw, and the cycle that allows this trade to flourish, you must leave the city walls. You must go out into the countryside. You must meet the buffalo in the mud. You begin to walk out of the plaza, leaving the fading embers behind you. The air grows cooler as you move away from the fires. You are heading towards the gates again, towards the vast, checkerboard plains of the agrarian empire. The city sleeps, but the land never does. You leave the city gates behind you. The stone faces of the entrance tower stare blankly into the distance, but you are moving away from their gaze. You are walking out into the vast flat expanse that surrounds the capital. If the city was the mind of the empire, and the temples were its soul, this place is its stomach. You are standing on the edge of the green sea. It is dawn. The sun has not yet crested the horizon, but the sky is bleeding into a soft, bruised purple. The air is different here. Inside the city, the air smelled of wood smoke, animals, and humanity. Here, the air smells of wet earth, green shoots, and standing water. It is a primal, fertile scent. As the light strengthens, the landscape reveals itself. It is a grid. As far as your eye can see, the land is carved into squares. These are the rice paddies, separated by low earthen walls, called boons. They stretch out like a patchwork quilt, shimmering in the morning mist. You step off the raised causeway and onto one of these buns. The path is narrow. barely wide enough for two people to pass. The earth is damp and soft under your feet. To your left and right is the water. Rising from the water are the stalks of rice. This is the miracle of Angkor. You are looking at the result of the most sophisticated hydraulic engineering the world had ever seen. In medieval Europe, a farmer prays for rain and hopes for one good harvest. Here, the Khmer have mastered the water. Through the system of barrays and canals you saw earlier, they can irrigate the fields even in the dry season. They can harvest rice 3, sometimes 4 times a year. This surplus is the fuel of the empire. It is what allows the king to build mountains of stone. It is what feeds the armies. It is what allows thousands of artisans to spend their lives carving sandstone instead of hunting for food. You walk further into the fields. You see the workers? They are already there, waist-deep in the water. They are the silent majority of the empire. They wear broad conical hats made of palm leaves to shield them from the sun that will soon be hammering down. They move in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Stop and watch the planting. A line of women is moving backward through the mud. In their left hands they hold bundles of bright green rice seedlings. With their right hands, they plunge a few stalks into the soft mud. Thwack, thwack. It is a back-breaking motion. Bend, plant, step back. Bend, plant, step back. You can imagine the ache in their lower backs. You can feel the suction of the mud on their legs. Leeches are a constant companion here, silent passengers that cling to the skin. But the women do not stop. They talk to each other, their voices carrying over the water, low and melodic. They are singing a song to pass the time, a call and response that mimics the rhythm of the planting. You look down at the water in the paddy. It is alive. It is a complete ecosystem. Tiny fish dart between the rice stalks, crabs scuttle along the bottom, frogs sit on the lily pads. The farmers will catch these too. The rice paddy provides the grain, but it also provides the garnish. A shadow falls over you. You turn. Looming behind you is a beast of immense power, a water buffalo. It is massive, a wall of dark gray muscle and hide. Its horns are vast crescents that span 2 meters. It looks at you with wet, dark eyes that seem to hold an ancient bovine sorrow. It is chewing, its jaw moving in a slow, sideways grind. A buffalo is the tractor of the 12th century. Without this animal, the empire collapses. It pulls the plow through the heavy clay soil. It tramples the weeds. Its manure fertilizes the fields. A small boy, no older than 6, sits perched on the buffalo's back. He holds a thin bamboo switch, but he doesn't use it. He guides the 1,000-pound animal with a nudge of his heel and a soft click of his tongue. It's the relationship between the boy and the beast is absolute. They spend their days together. The buffalo protects the boy. The boy washes the buffalo. You watch them move off along the bund. The heavy hooves suck in and out of the mud squelch. Pop, squelch, pop. The sun is fully up now. The heat is immediate. It is a physical weight pressing down on your shoulders. The reflection of the sun off the water and the paddies doubles the intensity. You can see the heat waves shimmering above the green stalks. This is the dry season, but let us speed up time. Let us witness the transformation that defines this land. You stand still as the months flicker past. The air grows heavier. The sky turns a pale, sickly white. The heat builds until it feels like the world is holding its breath. The birds stop singing. The leaves on the trees droop. Then the wind changes. It comes from the southwest. It brings the smell of the ocean hundreds of miles away. The clouds gather. They are not the fluffy white clouds of the dry season. They are towering bruises, black and purple, stacking up like mountains in the sky. Thunder rolls in the distance, a low guttural growl that vibrates in your chest. The monsoon. It begins with a single drop. Splat. It hits the dry earth near your foot, kicking up a tiny puff of dust. Then another. Then the sky simply opens. It is not rain as you might know it. It is a deluge. It is a curtain of water so thick you cannot see the horizon. The temperature drops instantly. The sound is deafening, a roar of water hammering the earth, the leaves, the roofs of the distant huts. You stand in the rain. You are soaked in seconds. The water is warm. It feels cleansing. The rice paddies fill. Out the dry cracks in the earth vanish. The brown landscape turns a vibrant electric green almost overnight. Life explodes. The frogs begin a deafening chorus. The fish spawn. This is the heartbeat of Angkor, expansion and contraction of the water. You watch the farmers now. They are not hiding from the rain. They are working in it. They are smiling. The rain is wealth. The rain is life. But the rain is also a threat. If it comes too hard, it can wash away the seedlings. If it comes too late, the crop fails. This is where the king comes in. You look toward the distant temples, their spires barely visible through the gray sheets of rain. The farmer in the field believes that his labor alone is not enough. He needs the king to perform the rituals, needs the Brahmins to chant the Sanskrit prayers. He needs the alignment of the stones to channel the cosmic energy, ensuring the rain falls at the right time. It is a spiritual contract. The farmer gives his rice to the temple. The temple ensures the universe continues to function. The rain passes. The sun breaks through the clouds. The light is spectacular golden, sharp, illuminating the dripping leaves. Steam rises from the fields. You walk towards a small cluster of houses on the edge of the fields. These are not the polished houses of the city. These are rougher, simple stilt houses made of bamboo. Underneath one of the houses, a family is gathered. They are winnowing rice. Watch the rhythm. A woman holds a flat woven tray filled with threshed grain. She tosses it into the air. The golden kernels fly up. The wind catches the lighter chaff. The husk sand blows them away. The heavy grain falls back onto the tray. Toss. Whoosh. Catch. Toss. Whoosh. Catch. It is a motion practiced for thousands of years. The dust of the chaff sparkles in a shaft of sunlight. You see the piles of rice growing. This is the white gold of the Khmer. But where does it go? You see a cart approaching. It is drawn by 2 white oxen. The cart has large wooden wheels that creak as they roll. A scribe from the temple is walking beside it. He holds a palm leaf manuscript. He is here to collect the tax. The farmers do not look resentful. They scoop baskets of their white gold into the cart. They are paying their dues to the gods. They believe that this rice will feed the monks who pray for their souls. They believe it will feed the artisans carving the stories of the Mahabharata onto the walls of Angkor Wat. You realize the interconnectedness of it all. The stone requires the rice requires the water requires the king requires the stone. You walk away from the farmhouse, following the cart as it trundles along the muddy road. The wheels cut deep ruts into the track. As you walk, the landscape begins to change. The flat monotony of the rice paddies gives way to scrubland. The ground becomes harder, rockier. You see outcrops of gray stone poking through the red soil. You are leaving the soft, organic world of the farmers. You are approaching the source of the empire's immortality. You look ahead. In the distance, rising from the jungle like a sleeping giant, is the mountain range of Kulan. It is blue and hazy. This is where the stone comes from. The rice feeds the body of the empire, but the stone builds its skeleton. You have seen the mud, the wood, and the water. Now you must witness the dust, the chisel, and the sweat of the builders. You pause for a moment to scrape the mud from your shoes. It is thick and clay-like. It clings to you. You are carrying the soil of Angkor on your feet. You take a drink of water from a flask. It is warm, but wet. You wipe the sweat from your forehead. The agrarian rhythm continues behind you, the buffalo chewing, the women planting, the wind blowing the chaff. It is an eternal loop, a circle that has turned for centuries and will continue to turn long after the temples fall into ruin. But you are moving on. You are moving toward the sound of hammering. You step onto the road that leads to the mountains. The air gets drier. The smell of vegetation is replaced by the smell of crushed rock. You are ready to see how the mountains were moved. You walk north. The soft, yielding mud of the rice paddies is miles behind you now. The ground beneath your feet has changed. It is hard-packed laterite. A deep rust-red road that cuts through the dry diptero carp forest like a wound. The air has changed, too. The humidity is still there, but it is mixed with something else. Something sharp. Something dry. You can taste it before you see it. It is a fine grit that coats your teeth and dries out the back of your throat. It is stone dust. You are approaching the quarries of Penem Kalan, the mountain of lychees. This is the sacred mountain, the source of the river, and the womb of the temples. To build Angkor Wat, the Khmer engineers required 5 million tons of sandstone. It is more stone than was used to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. And unlike the pyramids, which are right next to their quarries, the stone here had to travel. You hear the sound first. It is a rhythmic, high-pitched tink 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 calling out in the heat. It is the sound of iron chisels striking rock. You emerge from the tree line and look down into the pit. It is a scene of organized devastation. The side of the mountain has been sliced away. The sandstone here is gray and uninspiring in its raw state. It does not yet glow with the golden hue of the finished temples. It is just rock. You watch the quarrymen at work. They are covered in a spectral white powder. It clings to their eyebrows, their hair, their sweaty skin. They look like ghosts. Walk down into the quarry. The heat is amplified here, reflecting off the exposed rock faces. It is blindingly bright. Observe the extraction. How do you cut a 2-ton block of stone out of a mountain without dynamite? You use patience and physics. You see a line of men crouching over a flat expanse of bedrock. They are pecking at the stone. They are chiseling a line of small, square holes, spaced a few inches apart. They work with a metronomic rhythm. Strike. Turn the chisel. Strike. Once the holes are deep enough, they insert wooden wedges. Now watch the magic. They do not hammer the wedges in until the rock cracks. That would be too violent, too unpredictable. Instead, they pour water onto the wood. You wait. It is a slow process. The wood absorbs the water. It expands. The fibers swell, exerting a hydraulic pressure that is immense and irresistible. You hear a sound, a deep, sharp crack like a gunshot. A perfect rectangular block of sandstone splits away from the bedrock. The earth has yielded. Now the struggle begins. The block weighs as much as a small car. It must be moved. There are no cranes. There are no hydraulics. There's only muscle and leverage. You see a team of 20 men surrounding the block. They insert long iron bars under the stone. On a count chanted by a foreman, they heave. The stone groans as it lifts an inch. Wooden rollers are shoved underneath. Then the elephants arrive. You feel the ground shake before you see them. A bull elephant, his tusks capped with bronze to prevent splitting, is guided into position. Chains are attached to the block. The elephant leans forward, his massive shoulder muscles bunching. The men push. The elephant pulls. The block rolls forward, grinding the wood beneath it to pulp. They are moving the stone to the canal. This is the secret logistics of Angkor. You cannot drag 5 million tons of stone 30 kilometers through the jungle on ox carts. The roads would disintegrate. So they use the water. You follow the stone to the edge of a man-made waterway that flows south from the mountain. Here, bamboo rafts are waiting. They're immense, layered platforms of giant bamboo poles, buoyant and tough. The loading's a delicate operation. If the stone slips, it will crush the raft and sink into the mud, lost forever. You watch as they use a ramp of earth and gravity to slide the block onto the raft. The bamboo dips low into the water, groaning under the weight, but it holds. The raft casts off. It drifts down the canal, guided by men with long poles, joins a procession of rafts. A floating conveyor belt of gray stone moving slowly through the green jungle. We decide to follow the stone. We travel down the river road, moving south, back toward the city. The journey takes days for the stone, but you move with the speed of thought. You arrive at the construction site. You are standing in the shadow of Angkor Wat, but it is not the temple you know. It is a construction zone. It is surrounded by scaffolding made of bamboo, rising hundreds of feet into the air. It looks like a complex wicker cage encasing the rising towers. The noise is deafening here. It is not the solitary tink of the quarry, but a cacophony of thousands of hammers, shouts, and the grinding of stone on stone. You walk up one of the massive earthen ramps that lean against the side of the temple. This is how they get the stones up high. As the temple grows, the mountain of earth grows with it. When the temple is finished, they will dig the earth away to reveal the structure. You reach the working level 50 feet above the ground. Watch the masons setting a block. This is the most critical moment. The Khmer do not use mortar. There is no cement to glue these stones together. They rely on gravity and a fit so perfect that not even a sheet of paper can slide between the blocks. How do they achieve this? You watch 2 men. They have placed the new block on top of the one below it, but it doesn't fit perfectly yet. There are tiny imperfections. They begin to grind the top stone against the bottom one. Push it back and forth. Grind, grind, grind. It is an abrasive, teeth-setting sound. They pour water and sand into the joint to act as an abrasive. They grind until the surfaces are mated perfectly, until the two stones become one continuous vertical load. This is why the temples still stand after 1,000 years of monsoon rains. The stones are locked together by friction, but the stone is still rough. It looks like a fortress, not a temple. Now you meet the artists. You step away from the heavy lifters and move toward a wall that has already been placed and smoothed. Here the noise is quieter, the tapping is delicate. A master carver is sitting on a low stool. He is working on a bas-relief. He is carving an apsara, a celestial dancer. You lean in close. The sandstone is relatively soft when it is first quarried, but it hardens as it dries. The carver must work while the stone is green. He holds a small chisel, no distinct from a pencil in size. He taps it gently with a wooden mallet. He is not removing chunks of rock, shaving away dust. He is carving the jewelry on the apsara's neck. The detail is microscopic. You can see the individual beads of the necklace. You can see the curve of her collarbone. You can see the faint smile on her lips. He blows the dust away. Puff. The face emerges from the gray rock. He has been working on this one figure for 3 weeks. He will spend his entire life on this wall. He is anonymous. He will never sign his name. His art is an act of religious devotion, a meditation in stone. You look down the length of the gallery. There are hundreds of carvers. The wall is a timeline. On the far left, the carving is finished, polished, and precise. In the middle, it is rough. The figures just blocked out in cubic shapes. On the right, it is blank, smooth stone, waiting for the chisel. You are witnessing the emergence of a story, the churning of the ocean of milk, the Battle of Kurukshetra. These are not just decorations. They are books written in stone for a population that is largely illiterate. The air here is thick with white dust. It coats everything. The carvers cough. Their lungs are slowly filling with silica. It is a sacrifice. They are breathing their lives into the stone. You walk away from the wall and climb higher, up the steep, narrow steps to the central sanctuary. The steps are shallow, forcing you to turn your feet sideways, forcing you to bow your head to watch your step. This is intentional. You must approach the gods with humility. You reach the top. The view is staggering. Below you, the city spreads out, the wooden metropolis, the green grid of the rice fields, the glittering canals. You can see the smoke of the cooking fires. You can see the procession of elephants moving down the causeway. But up here, it is a world of geometry and stone. You see a group of Brahmins priests inspecting the work. They're holding measuring cords. They are checking the alignment of the central tower. It must be perfectly aligned with the cosmos. If it is off by a fraction of a degree, the connection to the gods will be broken. They are debating a lintel, a heavy beam of stone that goes over a doorway. It has cracked. This is a crisis. You can hear the tension in their voices. To replace it means taking down the layers above it. It means weeks of delay. They decide to patch it. They will use iron clamps hidden inside the stone to hold it together. You can see the pragmatism behind the perfection. They are engineers as much as they are priests. The sun is beating down on the bare stone. It is hot enough to fry an egg. You can feel the heat radiating through the soles of your shoes. You find a patch of shade behind a pillar. You run your hand over the surface of the sandstone. It is rough, warm, and solid. Think of the hands that touched this. The hands that quarried it at the mountain. The hands that floated it down the river. The hands that dragged it up the ramp. The hands that carved it. Millions of hands. You are standing in a monument to collective effort. There is no I in Angkor. There is only we. The king commands, but the people build. As the sun begins to set, the work does not stop. Torches are lit. The construction continues into the night, especially when the deadline of a consecration ceremony looms. You watch the flickering lights on the scaffolding. The temple looks like a hive of fireflies. The sound of the chisels softens but never truly stops. The dust settles on your skin. You are becoming part of the site. But you cannot stay here in the dust forever. The stone is only the shell. To understand the life of Angkor, you must penetrate the inner circle. You must go where the common people are forbidden to tread. You must go to the palace. You descend the steep stairs. You leave the noise of the construction site behind. You wash the dust from your face in the cool waters of the moat. You are heading toward the royal enclosure. You are going to meet the man who commands the stone, the king. The transition from the rough dust of the quarry to the silken shadows of the court is sharp. Prepare yourself for gold, for silence, and for power. You stand before a wall that separates the known world from the forbidden one. You have left the dust of the quarries and the clamor of the market far behind. Here in the heart of Angkor Wat, the air is still. It smells of manicured vegetation, wet stone, and a faint sweet trace of sandalwood incense. You are looking at the royal enclosure. While the temples are open to the faithful at least, the outer courtyards, this space is different. This is the private domain of the Devaraja, the God King. It is a city within a city, a fortress of privacy guarded by walls of laterite and a legion of soldiers. You approach the Elephant Terrace. It is a massive viewing platform, 300 meters long, carved with life-sized elephants and garudas. This is the stage from which the king surveys his army. But today, the terrace is empty. The stone is baking in the sun. You are going behind the terrace. You pass through a narrow gate. The guards here are not the casual militia you saw in the market. These are the elite. They wear armor of hardened leather and carry swords with hilts wrapped in gold leaf. They do not look at you. To look at them is to acknowledge a threat. They stare straight ahead, statues of flesh and blood. You step inside, and here you see the greatest tragedy of Angkorian archaeology. You are looking for a palace, but you see only a forest. The royal palace was built of wood. While the gods lived in stone, the king, for all his power, was still a mortal man. His home was organic. It has long since dissolved into the soil, leaving behind only the stone foundations and the terraced pools. But let us rebuild it. Let your mind act as the carpenter. Rise up the wooden pillars. They are massive trunks of teak, lacquered in deep red and black. Raise the roof. It's tiled with lead and gold, shining so brightly in the sun that it hurts the eyes to look at it. Hang the tapestries. Unroll the silk carpets. You're standing in the distinct silence of extreme privilege. The ground here is paved. Servants are sweeping it constantly. There is no dust. There is no mud. You walk towards the main pavilion. The architecture is airy, designed to catch the slightest breeze. The walls are not solid. They are screens of carved wood, allowing the air to flow while filtering the light into intricate patterns on the floor. You hear a sound. It is the chiming of a water clock. Time here is measured not by the sun, but by the dripping of water in a copper vessel. It is a slow, artificial time, divorced from the rhythms of the rice fields. You enter the council hall. The floor is covered in mats, woven from silver thread. You feel the coolness of the metal through your shoes. At the far end, raised on a dais, is a window. It is framed in gold. This is the golden window. This is where the king appears to his ministers. Imagine the scene. It is early morning. The court is in session. You see the ministers? There are hundreds of them. They are shirtless, their skin oiled, wearing sampots of rich, imported silk. They are prostrate on the floor. No one's head may be higher than the king's. If the king stands, they bow. If the king sits, they kneel. If the king walks, they crawl. The silence is absolute. No one speaks unless spoken to. The only sound is the rustle of silk and the clinking of gold armbands. Then the king appears. He does not walk in. He emerges. He is carried on a palanquin of gold, shielded by 4 white parasols. The parasol is the ultimate symbol of rank. The more umbrellas you have, the higher you are. The king has many. He is heavy with gold, wears a crown of gold, a necklace of heavy pearls, armlets, anklets. He holds a sword in his hand, the Priakon, the sacred sword. It is said that if this sword is ever lost or drawn from its scabbard without ritual, the empire will fall. He sits. He looks out over his court. His face is the face you saw in the Bayon temple, passive, serene, detached. He is not just a ruler. He is the vessel of Shiva or Vishnu. When he speaks, his voice is low. A scribe sitting near his feet writes down every word on a blackened animal skin with chalk. The business of the empire is discussed. A rebellion in Champa, a drought in the east. The tax revenues from the tonal sap? The king listens. He gives a brief command. The matter is settled, but let us leave the politics. Let us go deeper into the palace, into the private quarters. You pass through a curtain of pearls. You're entering the forbidden zone. Even the male ministers cannot come here. This is the domain of the women. It is a common misconception that the king lived alone. In reality, the palace was a city of women. The Chinese diplomat Zhou Deguan estimated there were thousands of women living within these walls. They are the wives, the concubines, the dancers, the servants, and most interestingly, the guards. You see them now? Female soldiers. They are dressed in uniform, carrying spears and shields. They patrol the corridors of the inner sanctum. They are the king's last line of defense. They are fierce, loyal, and utterly disciplined. You walk past them into the gardens. It is a paradise. There are pools lined with sandstone steps. The water is clear, constantly refreshed by the hydraulic system. Lotus flowers bloom in pink and white. You see the women of the court? They are not working in the fields. Their skin is pale, protected from the sun by parasols and turmeric paste. Their hands are soft. Some are sitting in the shade playing a board game with ivory pieces. Others are weaving garlands of jasmine and champaka flowers. The scent is intoxicating. It hangs heavy in the enclosed garden. You notice the hierarchy here too. The principal wives have their own pavilions, their own servants. They are powerful women, often the daughters of powerful provincial governors. Their marriage to the king is a political alliance that holds the empire together. Then there are the secondary wives and the concubines. Some are girls sent as tribute from vassal states. They live a life of luxurious captivity. They have everything they need: food, silk, jewelry, but they can never leave. You sit down on a stone bench near the pool. You watch a young woman dipping her feet in the water. She looks bored. This is the emotion that permeates the palace. Ennui. Outside in the rice fields, life is a struggle for survival. Survival is guaranteed. The struggle is for favor. A glance from the king, a promotion for a brother, a better pavilion. The air is thick with whispers. You can imagine the intrigue. The palace is a pressure cooker of ambition. A rumor started here can end a minister's career or start a war. But what of the king himself? You stand up and walk towards the central tower of the palace, the Fimyanakas. It is a pyramid of laterite, capped with a golden tower. Legend says that this tower is the home of a 9-headed Naga princess, the spirit of the land. Every night, the king must climb this tower. He must sleep with the Naga princess before he can sleep with his wives. If he fails to go, disaster will strike the kingdom. If the Naga princess does not appear, the king is continuously doomed to die. It is a metaphor, perhaps, for the burden of rule. The king is married to the land. He is never truly off duty. You climb the steep stairs of the Fimyanakas. It is lonely up here. The wind is stronger. You look down at the palace grounds. You see the flickering lamps being lit as evening approaches. You enter the king's private chamber at the base of the tower. It is not a large room. It is intimate. The floor is covered in tiger skins. There is a low bed of carved ivory. On a table there are objects of the man, not the god. A mirror of polished bronze, small box of betel nut, scroll of poetry. You realize the isolation. He is worshipped by millions, but he has no equals. He cannot have a casual conversation. Every word he speaks is law. Every meal he eats is tasted for poison. You see a servant entering the room. She is crawling, pushing a tray of food before her. She does not look up. She places the tray on a low table and backs away, still crawling. The king enters. He has removed the heavy crown. He looks tired. He splashes water on his face from a gold basin. For a moment, he is just a man washing the dust of the day from his skin. He sits to eat. The food is exquisite river prawns, roasted deer, delicate salads of banana flour. He eats alone. Outside, the noise of the palace is changing. The business of the day is done. The ministers have gone home. Oh, the guards have changed shifts. Shh. Now a new sound begins to drift through the wooden screens. It is the sound of music, but not the martial drums of the army. It is the high, sweet sound of the Roniat bamboo xylophone and the haunting melody of the traw fiddle. The evening entertainment is beginning. The king finishes his meal, stands up. He must perform his role as the patron of the arts, must attend the dance. You follow him out of the private chamber, back through the pearl curtains, into the great hall of the dancers. The atmosphere here is different. It is charged with a spiritual electricity. The torches are blazing, casting long, dancing shadows against the red lacquered walls. You are about to witness the Apsaras. These are not just entertainers. In the Khmer worldview, they are the link between heaven and earth. When they dance, they are not imitating the gods. They become them. You find a place in the shadows of a pillar. The smell of the incense is stronger here, almost overpowering. It is meant to induce a trance state. The musicians are tuning their instruments. The anticipation in the room is palpable. The wives and concubines are gathered, seated on the floor in their finery. The king takes his seat on the dais. The hall goes quiet. You take a deep breath. You're about to see the most famous image of Angkor come to life. The stone carvings you saw on the walls are about to step out of the rock and breathe. The silence in the great hall of dancers is not empty. It is a held breath. The air is thick, layered with the smoke of aloe wood and the sweet, cloying scent of champaka flowers that drape from the pillars. You are seated on the periphery, watching the flickering torchlight play across the faces of the court, the ministers, the generals, the concubines. They are all waiting. Then the first sound breaks the stillness. It is a single, resonant strike of a gong. It hangs in the air, a bronze vibration that you feel in your chest before you hear it fully. The pinpeat orchestra begins. This is not the music of the rice fields or the lullabies of the wooden houses. This is the music of the gods. Look at the musicians seated on the floor to the side of the stage. They are men, dressed in white. Their faces are focused, their eyes closed in concentration. Watch the xylophone player, the Roniat. His mallets are blurred motions. He strikes the bamboo keys with incredible speed, yet the sound is liquid, rippling like water over stones. It is the melody that underpins the universe. Beside him, the kongvong, a circle of gongs, provides the rhythmic skeleton. The player sits inside the circle, turning his torso to strike the tuned bronze pots. Bong bong, ching, bong, and then the shrelai was a woodwind instrument, a type of oboe. Its sound is high, nasal, and piercing. It cuts through the percussive, heavy air like a bird crying out in a storm. It is a sound that might seem strange to your modern ears, discordant perhaps, but here it is the voice of the celestial realm. The rhythm accelerates. The drums, the samphire, and the great score tom begin to thunder. It is a heartbeat. It drives the blood, and then they appear, the Apsaras. They do not walk onto the stage. They seem to materialize from the shadows. There are 20 of them. They move in a line, synchronized so perfectly that they appear to be a single organism with 20 heads and 40 arms. They are not dressed as humans. They are dressed as statues. Look at their skin. It is dusted with a cosmetic powder made from turmeric and rice, turning their complexion into a radiant golden yellow. In the torchlight, they look like living gold. They're bare-chested, save for a diagonal sash of red silk, but they are armored in jewelry. Heavy gold collars rest on their collarbones. Armbands grip their biceps. Wrist cuffs, anklets, and belts of intricate filigree catch the light. But it is the headdress that defines them. It is a tall, pointed spire of gold, tiered like the towers of Angkor Wat itself. It frames the face, accentuating the perfect stillness of their expressions. They stop in the center of the hall. They strike a pose. Knees bent deep, feet turned out, backs arched. It is a posture of impossible tension and balance. They lower their center of gravity, connecting themselves to the earth, while their upper bodies float. This is the central paradox of Khmer dance. The lower body is the roots, grounded and heavy. The upper body is the branches, fluid and ethereal. Now watch their hands. This is where the language of the dance is written. The dancers do not speak. Their hands tell the story. Focus on the lead dancer. She is the Niang. Her fingers are bent back at an angle that seems physically impossible. Her fingers curve backward like the petals of a blooming lotus. This is not a natural ability. It is the result of years of agonizing training. From the age of 5, these women have been molded. You can imagine the scene in the dance conservatory, the mistresses soaking the young girl's hands in warm water, then bending the fingers back until they touch the wrist. Bound with cloth to hold the shape, the tears, the pain. But tonight, there is no pain. There is only perfection. The dancer forms a gesture, where thumb and forefinger touch, the other three fingers fanned out. This is Jeeb. It represents a leaf, or a flower bud. Then, with a fluid roll of the wrist, the hand opens, the palm facing out. This is Vong. The flower blooms. She moves her hand to her chest. It means I. She moves it to her forehead. It means sorrow. She sweeps it wide. It means the world. They are enacting the Riemkur, the Khmer version of the Ramayana. You watch as the story unfolds. It is a tale of gods and demons, of love and abduction, but it is told in slow motion. There are no sudden jumps, no frantic running. Even the battle scenes are a slow, hypnotic interplay of balance and geometry. A male dancer enters. He wears a mask. He is Hanuman, the Monkey King. His movements are different, jerky, athletic, mimicking the scratching and leaping of a monkey, but still stylized, still controlled. He circles the Apsuras. He is the chaotic energy of the forest, contrasting with their serene celestial order. The king watches from his dais. He does not clap. He does not smile. He observes. For him, this is not just entertainment. It is a ritual engine. The Apsuras are the link between his kingdom and the heavens. By maintaining thousands of dancers' temples like Ta Prohm alone, housed over 600 dancers, he is ensuring the fertility of the land. If the dance stops, the rain stops. If the perfection falters, the universe wobbles. You find yourself drifting into a trance. The repetition of the music, the cyclic gong structure erases the passage of time. The dance seems to have no beginning and no end. It is a mandala in motion, a cosmic diagram drawn in the air by golden limbs. Look closely at the dancers' faces. They are masks of serenity. They do not smile with their mouths, but with their eyes. They are trained never to show strain. Sweat beads on their foreheads, gleaming in the firelight, but their breathing is invisible. The sheer physical exertion is immense. To hold a deep ply for an hour, to keep the back arched, the toes curled up, requires the strength of an athlete. But they make it look like floating. The smell of the room changes. The torches are burning down, the resin sputtering. The scent of the dancers' jasmine garlands, warmed by their body heat, mixes with the metallic temps of the bronze instruments. The climax of the story approaches. Sita is rescued. The balance is restored. The dancers form a tableau, a final pyramid of gold and silk. They hold the pose. The gongs swell to a crescendo, bong 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 dand, then silence. Duh. The sudden quiet is shocking. The dancers do not bow. They are divine beings. They do not bow to mortals, not even to the king. They simply dissolve, turn, and file out of the hall with the same gliding walk, disappearing back into the shadows from which they came. The king rises. The court bows. Spell is broken. The ministers begin to talk in low voices, gathering their robes. The servants rush in to snuff the torches. You stay behind for a moment. The hall is darkening. You can still hear the ghost of the music in your ears. You look at the empty stage. A single jasmine flower has fallen on the polished floor, is white against the dark wood. You pick it up. It is cool and waxy. You walk out of the hall into the night air. The transition from the stifling, perfumed heat of the dance hall to the cool night is refreshing. The moon is high now. It illuminates the towers of the palace, turning the gold spires into silver ghosts. You're standing in the center of the sleeping city. The noise of the Datha markets, the elephants, the construction is gone. The music has ended. But there is one sound that never stops in Angkor. It is a low, rhythmic chanting. It is the sound of prayer. While the court sleeps, the caretakers of the soul are awake. You feel a pull towards the temples. It's not the royal palace, but the monasteries that surround the great monuments. The religion of Angkor is shifting. As the Hindu gods Shiva and Vishnu have ruled for centuries, represented by the fire and the sword and the golden dancers. But there is a new whisper in the wind. It's a gentler path, the path of the Buddha. You decide to follow the chanting. You walk away from the luxury of the palace, across the dark courtyards, towards the flickering light of a monastery. The stone feels cold under your feet. The shadows are long. You are moving from the spectacle of the body to the discipline of the mind. You are ready to enter the world of the saffron robe and the smoke of prayer. You leave the lingering perfume of the Apsara dance behind you. The moon is high now, a stark white disk cutting through the humidity, casting the temple spires in sharp silver relief against the black sky. You are walking away from the center of power and toward the center of silence. The path beneath your feet changes from the paved causeway of the palace to a simpler, sandy track. You are entering the temple grounds of Top Rome, or perhaps Priya Khan, one of the great monastic complexes built by Jayavarman VII. The noise of the city has vanished completely. Even the insects seem respectful here, their buzzing reduced to a low, rhythmic thrum that matches the sound you are following. Listen, it is a low drone, vibration that seems to come from the earth itself. Om Mani Padme Hum. The chant is a river of sound flowing without beginning or end. You pass through a Gopira entrance gate. The stone here is covered in moss, cool and damp to the touch. You step into a courtyard that is not empty, but filled with the presence of trees. The roots of the spung trees are already beginning to snake over the walls, but in this time, they are kept in check by the gardeners. You see light ahead. It is not the roaring bonfires of the market, nor the bright torches of the dance hall. It is a soft, buttery glow. You are approaching the hall of worship. Inside, the air is thick. It is a physical substance, gray and swirling. This is the smoke of prayer. Hundreds of incense sticks are burning. They're stuck into sand-filled bronze vessels. The smoke rises in thin, straight lines before curling into complex arabesques near the ceiling. It smells of sandalwood, argarwood, and dried flowers. It is a scent designed to bridge the gap between the human and the divine. You step into the hall. Your eyes water slightly. Sitting in rows on the floor are the monks. They are a sea of saffron. Their robes are dyed with the heartwood of the jackfruit tree, giving them that distinctive burnt orange hue. Their heads are shaved smooth. Their feet are bare. They do not look at you. Their eyes are closed or half open, fixed on a point a few feet in front of them. They are chanting from palm leaf manuscripts held in their laps. You find a spot in the corner, in the shadows, and sit. The stone floor is cold. This is the spiritual engine of the empire. While the farmers feed the city's body and the soldiers protect its borders, these men protect its soul. But there is a shift happening here. Look at the statue they are praying to. In the older temples, you saw Vishnu with his 4 arms, or Shiva with his trident. They were gods of power, of destruction and creation. They were the gods of the aristocracy. But here, in the flickering lamplight, you see a different face. It is the Buddha. He sits in the lotus position, his hands resting in his lap in the gesture of meditation. His eyes are closed. A faint, compassionate smile plays on his lips. This is the great transition. Under Jayavarman VII, the empire has pivoted from Hinduism to Mahayana Buddhism. It is a shift from the worship of power to the worship of compassion. The king is no longer just a Devaraja god-king, but a bodhisattva being who delays his own enlightenment to save the suffering people. You can feel this shift in the room. The atmosphere is not one of fear or awe, but of benevolence. Watch the monk in the front row. He is an elder, his face a map of deep wrinkles. He reaches for a small bell. Ting. The sound is clear and piercing. The chanting stops in unison. The silence that follows is heavy. It rings in your ears. The monk begins to speak, reciting a sutra. His voice is gravelly but strong. He is speaking of the impermanence of all things. Anaka. All that is built will fall. All that is born will die. It is a poignant message spoken in the heart of a city built of stone to last forever. Did they know? Did they suspect that the roots outside were waiting to pull these walls down? The ceremony ends, the monks rise. There is a rustle of fabric. They move with a deliberate slowness. Mindfulness in every step. You follow a group of them as they leave the main hall. They are not going to bed, they are going to work. We often think of monks as secluded hermits, but in Angkor they are the administrators of the social welfare system. You walk with them through a cloistered gallery. The walls are carved with scenes of heaven and hell, reminders of the karmic consequences of one's actions. You arrive at a building on the edge of the temple complex. It smells different here. The incense is mixed with the sharp medicinal scents of ginger, turmeric, camphor, and lime. This is a hospital. Jayavarman VII built 102 of these across his empire. The inscription on the stela at the entrance reads, "The suffering of the people is the suffering of the king." You enter the ward. It is a wooden structure, open-sided for ventilation. Wooden platforms are raised off the ground. On them lie the sick. You see a woman shivering with fever malaria, the constant scourge of the tropics. A man with a broken leg, his limbs splinted with bamboo and bound with cloth. The monks are the doctors. You watch a young novice grinding herbs in a stone mortar. Grind, grind, grind. He mixes the paste with honey. Another monk is reciting a mantra over a bowl of water. To the Khmer, medicine and magic are the same thing. The herbs treat the body. The mantra treats the spirit. He sprinkles the water over the feverish woman. She opens her eyes and looks at him. There is hope in her gaze. This is the forgotten life of the city. We obsess over the kings and the wars, but here in the quiet of the night is the reality of human frailty. The empire was a place where people got sick, broke bones, gave birth, and died. And the temple was the center of it all. You leave the hospital and wander towards a small stone building standing alone in the courtyard. It has thick walls and small windows. This is the library. You step inside. It is cool and dry. The air smells of dust and dried leaves. Shelves line the walls. They are stacked with bundles. These are not books as you know them. They are palm leaf manuscripts, narrow strips of dried palm leaf etched with a stylus, rubbed with ink, and bound together with string. A scribe is working by the light of a small oil lamp. He is copying a text. He dips his stylus. Scratch. Scratch. He is copying the Mahabharata, or perhaps a treatise on astronomy, or a record of land ownership. You realize the fragility of this knowledge. The stone walls were built to protect these leaves. The leaves are organic. They are food for insects. They rot in the damp. We have lost almost all of them. The history of Angkor that we have today comes from the inscriptions carved into the door frames and the stone steles. The literature, the poetry, the daily records, the millions of words written on these leaves have turned to dust. You watch the scribe's hand. He is preserving a civilization, one character at a time. He pauses to trim the wick of his lamp. The flame flares, illuminating his tired face. You back out of the library, leaving him to his holy work. The sky is beginning to change. The absolute black is turning to a deep cobalt blue. The stars are fading. Dawn is coming. And with the dawn comes the most important ritual of the day. The alms round. You stand by the temple gate. The monks are lining up. They hold their black lacquer bowls. They are silent. They begin to walk. You follow them out of the temple complex and into the city. The streets are waking up. The mist is clinging to the ground. The air is cool. You see the people waiting. The grandmother you saw weaving, the merchant from the market, the soldier, they are kneeling by the side of the road. They hold food. Balls of sticky rice, bananas, small cakes wrapped in leaves. The monks walk in a single file, eyes downcast. They do not ask for food. They simply present the bowl. The lay people place the food into the bowls. Watch the interaction. The giver bows. The receiver does not. This is not charity. In the Khmer worldview, the monk is doing the layperson a favor by accepting the food. By giving to the monk, the layperson gains merit spiritual currency that ensures a better rebirth in the next life. The monk moves on. The bowl fills up. You walk with them as the sun breaks over the horizon. The orange light hits the orange robes, setting the line of monks ablaze. It is a river of fire moving through the wooden city. The chanting begins again, low and murmuring as they bless the city. May you be free from suffering. May you be well. You feel a sense of profound peace. It seems like a perfect system. King protects, the farmer feeds, the monk prays. A cycle of mutual dependence that has lasted for centuries. But as you stand there, watching the golden light flood the streets, you notice something. Look at the water in the canal nearby. It is lower than it should be. The silt is piling up against the banks. Look at the trees on the horizon. They are fewer than before. A demand for wood for the firing of bricks, for the smelting of iron, for the cooking fires of 1 million people is eating the forest. The smoke of prayer rises into the sky, but the sky is changing. The seasons are becoming unpredictable. The rains are coming too late or too hard. The spiritual energy of the city is at its peak, but the physical foundation is beginning to crack. You follow the monks back to the temple. They sit to eat their one meal of the day. They eat in silence. You leave them there in the shadow of the great stone towers. You walk back out into the blinding light of the day. You have seen the glory. You have seen the gold, the stone, the water, and the prayer. But now you must witness the unraveling. You feel a wind picking up. It blows the dust across the road. It rattles the dry leaves of the palms. It whispers of change. You are moving towards the end of the Golden Age. You are moving towards the great transition where the stone will fail and the forest will return. You are standing once again on the embankment of the West Beret, the place where your journey began. But time has moved forward. The air feels different now. The deep, wet humidity that once draped over the city like a heavy silk robe has become brittle. The heat is sharper, stinging the skin. Look at the water. Centuries ago, when you first stood here, the reservoir was a mirror stretching to the horizon, brimming with the confidence of an empire that had tamed the monsoon. Now, the water has retreated. Vast mudflats lie exposed, baking in the sun. The earth is cracked, forming a mosaic of parched clay that looks like the skin of a dying reptile. You walk down the slope of the dike. The ground is treacherous. See the remains of a sluice gate. It is choked with sand. This is the silent killer of Angkor. Silt. For centuries, the empire stripped the trees from the Kolan mountains to fuel the iron kilns and to clear land for rice. Without the roots of the forest to hold the soil, the monsoon rains, when they did, washed the mountain earth down into the intricate network of canals. The veins of the city are clogged. A hydraulic heart is failing. You watch a group of men trying to clear a canal. They are digging with wooden spades, their bodies lean and sinewy. They are exhausted. So silt comes back faster than they can remove it. It is a losing battle against geology. The water, which was once the servant of the king, has become his enemy. The climate itself has turned against the city. Historians and scientists will later look at the rings of ancient cypress trees and see the story written in the wood. The medieval warm period that allowed Angkor to flourish is ending. The Little Ice Age is beginning. The rhythm is broken. You experience the years flickering past in a sequence of extremes. One year, the rain does not come at all. The rice stalks wither and turn yellow before the grain can form. The dust creates a brown haze over the temples. The next year, the rain comes all at once. Not a nourishing shower, but a violent deluge. The clogged canals cannot handle the volume. You see the water bursting the banks. It floods the streets of the wooden metropolis. It rots the piles of the houses. It washes away the bridges. Stand before the great stone bridge, Speen Thra. You see the water raging underneath it, dark and angry. Tears at the sandstone pillars. The engineering that held for 300 years is snapping under the strain. Now, look at the people. Hunger changes the face of a city. The bustling energy of the market is dampened. The faces you see are gaunt. There is a tension in the air, a quiet desperation. And with the hunger comes doubt. Walk back toward the center of the city, toward the Bayon. The stone faces of Jayavarman, the seventh, still smile their serene, detached smile. But to the people standing below, that smile no longer looks benevolent. It looks indifferent. For generations, the social contract was simple. The king builds the temples and performs the rituals. The gods grant the rain and the harvest. The king is the Dharmaraja, the keeper of cosmic order. But the order is broken. The rituals are failing. The chanting of the Brahmins echoes off the stone walls, but the sky remains empty or brings only destruction. If the king cannot control the water, is he truly a god? You feel the spiritual ground shifting beneath your feet. The grand state-sponsored Mahayana Buddhism and Hinduism required massive inputs of rice and labor to maintain. They were religions of the hierarchy. But now, you see the monks of a different order gaining ground. The Theravada monks. They do not ask for mountains of stone. They do not need thousands of dancers. Their message is personal. Self-reliance. karma, simplicity. You see a family abandoning their ancestral shrine to Shiva. They are setting up a small, simple altar to the Buddha in their home. They are turning away from the state. The glue that held the massive centralized empire together is dissolving. The people are becoming individuals again, no longer just cogs in the God King's machine. And as the internal structure weakens, the wolves begin to circle. Turn your gaze to the west. You hear a sound that chills the blood. It is not the rumble of thunder. It is the rumble of war drums. The kingdom of Ayutthaya is rising. The Siamese are coming. Angkor has known war before. The Khmer sacked the city in 1177, but this is different. This is not a raid. It is a replacement. Ayutthaya is younger, hungrier, and situated closer to the trade routes of the sea. Angkor is landlocked, tethered to its failing water system. You stand on the walls of Angkor Thom. The year is 1431. The siege has lasted for months. The city is starving. See the smoke of fires rising from the wooden districts? The air smells of burning thatch and fear. You do not see a heroic final stand. At the end of Angkor is not a cinematic explosion. It is an exhaustion. The gates are breached. The soldiers of Ayutthaya pour in. But watch closely, it is not a massacre. It is a looting. You see the invaders stripping the gold from the towers. They peel the lead sheets from the roofs. They load the bronze statues onto carts. They are taking the portable wealth of the empire. They are also taking the people. See long lines of prisoners being marched out of the city. The artisans, the dancers, the scribes, the engineers. The intellectual capital of Angkor is being drained away to build the glory of Ayutthaya. The silence that follows the sack is profound. But the city does not die immediately. It lingers. You walk through the streets in the aftermath. The king has fled. The court has moved south to Phnom Penh to Odong. They are chasing the trade with China, moving toward the intersection of the Mekong where the ships can dock. They are leaving the agrarian past for a mercantile future. Angkor is no longer the capital. It is a province. You watch the great transition happen in the households. A family is packing their ox cart. They're taking the cooking pots, the mats, the tools. They look back at their house, the house you watch them build in your mind's eye. They leave it standing. Why stay? The irrigation canals are dry. Soil is exhausted. The king is gone. The gods have moved south. They walk away. The dust settles in their wake. Now walk through the empty neighborhood. It is eerie. The houses are still there. Loom sits silent under a house, a half-finished scarf still on the frame. A clay pot lies broken on the path. The sound of the city has changed. The roar of the 750,000 people is gone. The chanting is gone. The music is gone. What remains is the wind. You walk to the palace. The wooden pavilions are beginning to sag. The termites, kept at bay for centuries by constant maintenance, are reclaiming their territory. You hear the soft, rich rit of insects chewing on the royal teak. The roof tiles slip. One by one they crash to the ground. Smash, smash. Sunlight streams into the throne room, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the stagnant air. But the stone temples remain. You walk back to Angkor Wat. It is not abandoned. This is the exception. While the city empties, the great temple remains a pilgrimage site. You see saffron-robed monks still tending the shrines. They have walled up the open galleries to create a smaller, more manageable space. They have painted over the Hindu deities with Buddhist imagery. The temple is surviving, but it is changing. It is no longer the center of the universe. It is a lonely lighthouse in a receding sea of humanity. You climb the central tower one last time. Look out over the landscape. The rice paddies are turning brown. The bundis are breaking down. The distinct sharp geometry of the Khmer grid is softening. You see the Green Army approaching. It moves slowly, but it never stops. It does not sleep. Does not need to eat. The jungle. You see the first saplings taking root in the dry canals. You see the vines creeping over the laterite walls. You see the seeds of the silk cotton trees drifting on the wind, looking for a place to land. A seed lands in a crack between two stones on the roof of Top Rome. It is tiny. It seems harmless, but it is the end. The root will grow. It will drink the rain. It will swell. It will become a wedge of wood stronger than iron. It will pry the stones apart. You feel the melancholy of the moment. It is the sadness of a house after the party is over, when the guests have left and the lights are turned off. The fascinating whispers of the city life the gossip at the well, the haggling in the market, the lullabies. The temple bells are fading into the distance. They are becoming ghosts. The civilization is not dead. The Khmer people are still here, living in the villages, planting their rice, praying to the Buddha. But the city, the great hydroengineering marvel, the wooden metropolises, finished. You sit on the steps of the library as the sun sets. The shadows of the trees are longer now than they were yesterday. The forest is closer. You wait for the night. The darkness seems thicker tonight. The stars are indifferent. You're ready for the final act. You're ready to watch the slow, beautiful, and terrifying reclamation. You are ready to see the stones surrendered to the root. You are sitting in the stillness of the aftermath. The armies of Ajudea have gone. The elephants of the king have marched south. The wooden carts of the refugees have left deep ruts in the mud that are slowly being filled by the rain. Now, the true conquest begins. It does not happen with a shout, but with a whisper. It begins with the birds. High above the stone towers of Top Rome, a bird perches on the pinnacle of a sanctuary. It drops a seed. It is a tiny thing, no larger than a grain of rice. It falls into a crevice between two blocks of sandstone blocks that were ground together by the hands of the masons you watched centuries ago. The seed sits there. It waits for the monsoon. When the rain comes, the seed swells. It sends out a tentative white root. This root is seeking two things: moisture and earth. It finds neither up here on the stone, so it begins to travel. You watch in the accelerated time of history as the root descends. It snakes down the side of the tower. It looks like a trickle of wax from a giant candle. It is pale and thin. It finds purchase in the intricate carvings of the Apsaurus, crossing their stone faces, blinding their stone eyes. This is the strangler fig Ficus gibosa, or perhaps the silk cotton tree Tetrameles nudiflora. It is a botanical predator. The root reaches the ground, it digs into the soil. Now, the circuit is complete. The tree pumps water and nutrients from the earth up to the leaves high above the temple. The tree explodes in growth. The thin root thickens. It turns from a thread into a cable, and from a cable into a trunk. It changes color from pale green to a silvery, reptilian gray. It hardens. You are witnessing a slow-motion wrestling match between geology and biology. The tree is hugging the temple. It is an embrace that is both tender and deadly. The roots wrap around the doorways. They pry the stones apart. Creak. The sound is too low for the human ear to hear, but the pressure is immense. The iron clamps that the Khmer engineers used are snapped like twigs. The lintels crack. The galleries collapse inward, bringing the roof down in a shower of dust and bat guano. But, in a cruel paradox, the tree also holds the temple up. The roots become the mortar. If you were to remove the tree now, the building would fall. They are locked together, the stone and the wood, in a dance of mutual destruction and support. Walk away from the stone temples for a moment. Well, back to the residential districts. What happens to the wooden metropolis? This is a faster decay. The thatch roofs rot within 2 years. The bamboo walls fall apart. The rain washes the mud floors away. Great teak pillars, the ones that held up the houses of the wealthy, last longer. But the termites find them, the fungi find them. The humidity softens the fibers. Within 50 years, the houses are gone. Within 100 years, the layout of the streets is erased by the undergrowth. Within 200 years, there is nothing left but the slight mounds of earth where the foundations stood and the depressions in the ground where the household ponds used to be. The city of 1 million people has vanished. The jungle has swallowed it whole. The dipteroths, the rosewoods, and the vines weave a dense green blanket over the remains of the daily lives you've witnessed. The darkness under the canopy is complete. The silence returns. But it is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of the wild. Tigers stalk the causeways where the processions once marched. Deer graze in the dry moat. The galleries of Angkor Wat are no longer filled with the chanting of monks, but with the screeching of millions of bats. The smell of incense is replaced by the sharp ammonia scent of guano. But do not make the mistake of thinking the city was lost. It was never lost. Not to the people who lived here. You see a small village on the edge of the forest. The people are simple farmers. Still hunt in these woods. They know the temples are there. They call it the city of the gods. They do not live in the stone ruins. They fear the ghosts, the Nikta, that inhabit the dark towers but they visit. You see a hunter pausing before a statue of a guardian lion. He places a small offering of betel nut on the lion's paw. He asks for protection from the tigers. He moves on. The memory of the empire fades into myth. The names of the kings, Soravarman, Jayavarman, forgotten by the common people. They tell stories of a celestial architect, Priya Pisnukar, who descended from heaven to carve the stones with a sword. They believe the temples built themselves. Centuries roll by. The Portuguese arrive in the 16th century, wandering friars who write of a city in the jungle entirely built of stone, but the world ignores them. Then, the 19th century arrives. You hear the hacking and machetes. You see a man wearing a white pith helmet, sweating profusely, stumbling through the vines. Henry Muat. He stands before the towers of Angkor Wat. He is stunned. He writes in his journal that this site is grander than anything left to us by Greece or Rome. The West discovers Angkor, and with discovery comes a new kind of noise. The noise of the saw and the axe. The French conservationists arrive. They declare war on the trees. You watch them clearing the jungle, pull the vines off the bas-reliefs. They dismantle the crumbling towers and rebuild them, stone by numbered stone. It is a massive jigsaw puzzle. They clear the plaza. They drain the moat and refill it. They drive back the Green Army. But they leave one temple as a reminder. Ta Prohm. They leave the trees there, locked in their embrace with the stone, to show the world the power of the forest. And now you step into the present day. The timeline catches up to you. You are standing in front of Angkor Wat again. It is 5 a.m. The sky is the color of bruised plums, just as it was when you stood here in Section 1. But the sounds are different. You hear the clicking of camera shutters. You hear the low murmur of 1,000 tourists. They are gathered by the edge of the reflection pond. They are waiting for the sunrise. They are wearing shorts and t-shirts, clutching water bottles and guidebooks. They have traveled on jet planes, not elephants. The sun crests the horizon. The silhouette of the 5 towers turns black against the burning orange sky. A collective gasp goes up from the crowd. It is the most photographed sunrise in the world. But walk away from them. Walk through the central gate. Walk down the long causeway. Touch the Naga balustrade. The stone is polished smooth by millions of hands. Enter the central sanctuary. Climb the steep stairs to the Bacon, the highest level. Find a quiet corner, away from the tour groups. Lean against a pillar. Close your eyes. The journey is complete. You have seen it all. You have seen the engineers diverting the rivers to create the berets. You have seen the women weaving in the shade of the stilt houses. You have smelled the fish fermenting in the market and the smoke of the roasting pigs. You have felt the mud of the rice paddies and the dust of the quarries. You have heard the golden anklets of the Apsaras and the chanting of the monks. You have watched the silt choke the canals and the trees strangle the towers. Open your eyes. Look at the stone. It is gray now, covered in patches of orange and white lichen. The bright colors of the paint and the gold leaf have long since washed away. The wooden doors are gone, the statues are headless, but the spirit of the place remains. It is in the wind that blows through the open corridors. It is in the heat that radiates from the sandstone. It is in the layout of the land itself, the ghost grid of the hydraulic city that is still visible from the air. Angkor is a testament to human ambition and human fragility. It reminds us that we can build mountains, we can tame water, we can create art that defies belief. We cannot stop the wheel of time. The water will eventually dry up, the wood will rot, the forest will return, but the whispers remain. If you listen closely, underneath the chatter of the tourists and the distant hum of traffic, you can still hear them. You hear the splash of a paddle in a canal. You hear the clack-clack-clack of a loom. You hear the drone of a prayer for rain. You are standing in the center of a vanished world, but it is not dead. It is sleeping. You take one last look at the face of the king on the tower. His eyes are closed. His smile is eternal. He has seen the rise and the fall, and he is content. You turn and walk down the stairs. You cross the causeway. You cross the moat. You leave the city of stone behind you. You step back into your own time, carrying the dust of Angkor on your shoes and the memory of its forgotten life in your mind. The fascinating whispers of the city have been heard.